Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar session on ClassBuddy, the AI tool for faculty readiness. My name is Sakina. I am the moderator for this session today. And before we dive in, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. First of all, this webinar is recorded, and we will be sharing the recording after this session, as well as any presentation material. Another thing I would like to encourage you all is to ask as many questions as you want, and you can do so by typing it in the chat window. We will address all these questions at the end during our dedicated Q&A session. Just to start with introduction of Royal Cyber. We are an IT consulting company with over 20 plus years, and we have been working on IT digital transformation industries and sections with different offices in multiple countries. And we are headquartered in Naperville, Illinois, and Chicago. Today, our speakers are Asad. He is a VP of Product of ClassBuddy, and with him we have Sarmat Afzal, who is a AI data scientist, joining this session. And next slide, please.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Thanks, Sakina. So we went. So what I wanted to cover today is talk about some of the stories from the early adopters in higher education and in first universities. There's a particular architecture sort of conceptual model that we find quite useful and repeatable that we're going to share. We'll follow that with a live demo, and we have some other AI use cases in higher ed beyond like teaching assistants and other things that I'm going to share at the end. So hopefully that'll be helpful as people are looking at what's next. So the first thing we're seeing is that AI is kind of everywhere. It's sort of the buzz that everyone's sort of talking about in different tools in different ways. There are a couple of universities that we see as sort of at the forefront and early adopters with sort of deep technology relationships that they're leveraging. University of Michigan has a strong relationship with ChatGPT and OpenAI, and they've deployed a campus-wide solution as well as a teaching assistant and other applications and solutions as well, self-service within their schools. It's got a lot of good feedback from professors and students alike, helping with their education delivery and making it as part of their learning objectives. University of Chicago is also, I think, at the forefront. They have deployed a university-wide chat AI solution rather than having the different faculties and departments come up with their own solutions. They've provided a general AI infrastructure for their entire university, and then they're building out other applications like teaching assistants and other applications. Arizona State also has a strong relationship with Chicago and Microsoft, and their solutions, I think, have been they're one of the leading edges universities last year. There's a couple applications that they have that are interesting. One of the newer ones was around their nursing faculty and medical faculty, where they've got some like AI patient simulations that are really helping with their teaching. Okay. One of the things we talk about all the time when we speak with IT departments, CIOs and CISOs, is AI needs have really put a lot of pressure on the IT department, where the IT department's sort of like a fire department, where there's so many requests for so many ideas, and there's so many stakeholders for adoption of technology. It's not as simple as a single application that they're adopting. It's a horizontal technology that touches many layers of the technology stack or the infrastructure stack. And IT is sort of looking at finding solutions to meet some of the needs of professors and students to use them in their education journey. There's VPA academics and CISOs worrying about losing copyright material and having network security and data security behind the scenes in whatever solution that we have, and not have data go out on the internet. The IT department internally are looking for solutions. I think cost is a major control. They don't want to pay for AI subscriptions multiple times per user, per department. So cost control, cost containment, having an understanding of cost is a big issue for them. The other part that's important is having it flow into like a regular ITIL application so they can provide support and tracking and governance for IT spend and IT applications similar to the way they manage their LMS or their SIS and other systems. And lastly, I think developers are looking for IT to say, just give me an API and I want IT to handle network security and support models and stuff like that for me. Okay. One aspect that we've seen come up over and over again, and we sort of co-developed this with Microsoft and other vendors, is having a stack in place that handles a lot of those requests in a common way, and then allowing specific use cases to be built on top of that common infrastructure. And we found this quite effective, particularly at scale. We've talked to universities where they've got a student and faculty population of 30,000 or more. And they're really saying, hey, look, when I go to the EDU version of OpenAI or Microsoft Azure and so forth, you have, it's $15 to $20 per student, and it becomes really quite cost prohibitive, especially if on top of that, there's additional applications that we need access to. So in this stack, the way we've sort of conceptually like designed this in a repeatable way that I think will work for many use cases and many stakeholders is to build at an infrastructure layer, having AI infrastructure. So at the bottom of the stack, you have the different AI models where you have an API gateway that allows users to switch from one model to another. And certain models are perform better in one solution than another. They also operate at different costs and price points for API usage. There's data privacy, so all the data from a networking and infrastructure layer stays within the university infrastructure. From a cost management perspective, what we found is there's two sort of key aspects. One of them is to allow migrating from a per user based price to a subscription based price. You'll find that 20% of the users are the most active and generate 80% of the usage. And you can adapt your costs so that not all users have access to the same amount. And rather than paying, $15, $20 per user times 30,000 or more users, you now have it based on how much they actually use. And we find that to be dramatically more cost efficient. The other layer that's important from a cost containment perspective is to have control over which access each user group has and how much being able to throttle like a maximum amount of usage per department. And the last part is having cost attribution, so usage for a particular group and the costs associated with it are traced back to the corresponding department. So you can go back and have a chargeback facility. Okay. The other next sort of layer to talk about is the accountability layer. And really when you talk to CISOs, what this means is tracking who has access to the AIs. Are people using the AI correctly? Do we have governance of it? Do faculty or department heads have visibility over who's using AI and how, and the ability to detect improper usage? Okay. And then above that, we've got an authorization authentication loan. So here, the IT departments that we've talked to have basically connected the AI module to their corporate identity system. It may be an Entra, it may be Canvas, it may be Okta or other solutions. And then lastly, the final solution that where the applications live is we have a corporate GPTs, AI applications, internal projects. And this is where on the front end, you have a teaching assistant or a general purpose AI solution or a medical, data simulator or patient simulator, for example. So these are where all the applications live, but it means that all AI applications have this sort of control layer from an IT administration perspective over these solutions. Next, what I wanted to go over was some of the specific applications and solutions, including a demo of some of the items that we've built around our teaching assistant and give a bit of a view of how that works. Before we do that, I did want to go through and just get a read from the audience or a poll to see where people are in their adoption journey. There's a lot of different sort of stages of maturity and stuff like that to go through. I'm going to go through, I'm going to change this into the poll mode. I'm going to bring these on deck. So here, I'll wait a few minutes to like everyone to sort of spend a minute and answer. I've got 5 questions. And we have 40%. And maybe we can review them together just to see where people are at. Okay, I got a couple more. I got 2 more questions. I wanted to ask if is there a specific interest in particular areas? So student teaching tools is one area, something like a teaching assistant, a writing assistant, a simulator, usage simulator. Are people looking at these items? Give this a second to get a few more participants. Okay, I'm going to give you the next question. Is there interest around instructor tools? So grade, like course grading, helping student feedback, and generating course materials, things like that. There's interest in generating course materials for instructor tools. Interesting. Okay. Next one. See if there's any interest in administration. So, for example, we've seen in many of the universities that we're speaking to applications for traditional like HR policies, allowing faculty to ask about their HR systems. Student transcriptions, receiving transcripts, and passing data between. If someone transfers from one university to another, processing the transcripts. IT help desk, having an AI on their ServiceNow implementation, for example. Okay. And then it was here, let me go to the next one. Oh, we're almost done. So here we've got, this is an interesting use case that hasn't come up very often, but it's interesting for me. It's AI around alumni tools, particularly around donors and fundraising. And considering that it's sort of more of a niche use case, but it is one of the ones that had a very quick ROI. Okay, and the last question I wanted to ask is, do you have a clear strategy or feedback around a build versus buy model? Give us a second. Answer. And then I'll share our feedback as we go through as people, as well from the events that we've attended. I'll share some of our results. Okay, so here, let me go through the results. So here, this is something whenever we pull this, when we see the numbers change over time, but we found that 2023 there was a big difference. Right in the beginning of 2023, there was a lot of resistance, and now I think there's certain departments it doesn't make sense, but for a lot of schools, particularly in master's programs and more advanced programs, I think there's more flexibility and higher adoption of AI technology. In some cases, the results are also quite compelling, even outside of the teaching experience. The feedback we had for student tools, so here we've got 25% saying not considering, but I think we've got 75% either considering or piloting or using something right now. And we're seeing this quite well, that there's a lot of pilots. We are also seeing like no one's fully implemented across the entire course or across entire faculty, but it's a similar thing where they're either considering or piloting or planning for 2025 implementation, and the scope is sort of being worked out. I'll share the results here for the other one. So for instructor tools, this is one thing that we're seeing. There's a lot of ROI around the teaching experience and providing other tools. Some of the LMS tools, particularly Blackboard, are launching features particularly for grading or creating or giving feedback in course materials. So there's a lot of adoption for that. So that's quite interesting. Administration is interesting. So it's a 50-50 split. Administration here, I'm seeing this. What we're seeing in the market is not so much as a teaching experience, but standard large institutions have IT systems and IT support, and AI sort of makes sense for automating or supporting some of that stuff. Similarly for HR, other administrative departments. One thing that's interesting I'll talk about for HR or other systems is we're seeing there's not as many people looking into this, but there's faster adoption, because normally the putting a chatbot over the HR handbook, so someone has to like read the entire handbook to provide answers, is quite compelling, and it's an easy use case with an easy ROI with less barriers to adopt, less convincing, like fewer stakeholders to juggle. For alumni tools, you're sort of to be expected. I think this is something we saw at some of the trade show and events that we've seen, where it's a unique use case, but there are some people looking at that. So that's something just to keep an eye on, to see how well people are looking at this. Yeah, I'll speak about this a little bit later. And in here, we have build versus buy. And what I feel is that this is sort of a changing dynamic where for people that are looking to buy a solution versus build, 2023 and early 2024, there weren't that many solutions available. And a lot of the big schools with, relationships with OpenAI and Microsoft and AWS, where they're getting sort of strategic attention from them, were building their own, and they wanted to provide that capability as a differentiator for what they offer. I think not only for their students, but also for when you graduate from like AU Chicago, your likelihood of being an AI builder as opposed to a user is different. AI, as more solutions become available, I think there's going to be a mix where here even 60%, where there are more available solutions off the shelf available to integrate. So with this, go back to sharing. Can you guys see my screen? Where's that? There we go. That should be better. Okay, so with this,
I said we are still seeing your poll screen.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can stop sharing that.
Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay.
Well, it's still the poll screen. Sorry. Quick poll.
Okay, and now we're seeing.
No, it's still the, yeah, now we can see the slides.
Okay. So
Thank you.
what I wanted to go over next, I'll pass it over to some of our sort of data scientists who help build a lot of the solutions, is a teaching assistant that we have got deployed and rolled out. This is a teaching assistant that's integrated as an LTI application. It's integrated into the course material, and it pulls from Canvas assignments and lecture presentations and so forth. It does have an AI engine. So with that, let me pass it over to Sarmad, if you can give us a walkthrough and a demo.
Sure, sir. So, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
All right. It's the ClassBuddy app, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, thank you, Asad, and thank you everyone for joining in. So, this particular instance of the ClassBuddy, as Asad mentioned, is deployed as an LTI application inside Canvas. So here's your dashboard for the Canvas, and you can see we have one of the course setup, which is about business writing in the age of Gen AI. So as you get inside the course, you're gonna see like different options, like usual options from Canvas, but now you have two other options as well. One of them is ClassBuddy TA, and the other one is ClassBuddy Admin. So ClassBuddy Admin is the application which is made for the professors. It's the UI part of the application which is only visible for professors to go and set up or configure anything they want to do about their course. As you can see over here, you have the basic setup, which is the prompt template. Here you can go and specify professor's name, email address, TA name, TA email address, the name of the course, and then the prompt template. So this prompt template really plays a key role in defining the behavior of the large language model, even though it is connected to like different functions underneath from where it decides which section of Canvas or any other tool it has to call to pull the relevant information. But the instructions that the professor has passed over here are more towards defining the persona of that particular TA. So let's read it. And it says like you are in helpful AI-based virtual teaching assistant designed to assist students with business writing in the age of Gen AI. Then it says like make sure you call all the tools and functions before telling the users that you didn't find the answers, which means you are specifying model to look at all the tools to get the information before you say like I didn't get the information. And now there are like some additional prompts as well. Next, it's the AI guardrail. So over here, you can go and ask the model to stop answering certain questions. Like you can specify what you want the AI model to answer and what you don't want the AI model to give answers, right? And what it should do in case if it's not finding any answers. So here you have specified if you're not finding anything, please make sure you have called every tool and the function provided to you. And still, if you don't find anything, you can ask them to like modify the question so that it can be rephrased and the information can be found. Finally, anything that you strictly don't want the AI to answer, you can specify over here, just as it says, like, do not answer anything about advertising to children, right? So now comes the file storage. Like it's connected to different data sources, Canvas or Panopto or Blackboard or anything. But for this particular instance, we have given an additional file storage. You can go and upload files directly over here. Once you have uploaded the file, they're gonna be parsed and processed and massaged and put inside the vector database, which eventually would make them available to the AI to give responses from. Additionally, it looks through all the different sections that you have in Canvas, but we have given you the flexibility to choose and toggle on and off different sections. Let's assume if you're not using announcements board in Canvas, you can just toggle it off. Once you have toggled it off, submit, the AI will not give responses from announcements. The next tab over here is suggested questions and welcome message. So as you can see, like this is the TA. and this TA has a welcome message, and then there are like like 4 prompt starters as well. So you can go and set up that information over here, whatever welcome message you want, whatever suggested questions you want to give to the students, and then there is the chat history. So whatever conversations have happened like with this TA over entire time can be found over here. So this basically is a conception for the situation if there is any kind of conflict, right? If there is a conflict between what the virtual TA has told to any student and what is the actual information, then you can always go back and cross-reference and see what exact question was asked and what exact answer was given by the virtual TA. Then there are like different modes that you can adapt to. So the first one that you can see over here is by the book, which means like whatever things have been defined inside your learning management systems are the only ground truth, and it should only reference to that material while generating the responses. Then there is one which is hybrid, which is basically more oriented towards a mix of the outside world and what you have provided inside learning management systems. And finally facilitator, where basically it's like inquiry based learning. It's more adaptive to classroom environment, asking one question and creating more questions out of it while it is giving the responses. It's like little less restrictive. Then you have classes schedule. So here you can go and specify like what different modules you're gonna have for this course. When are these courses going? Like when are those classes be conducted, and the time when it will start, and the ending time when it will end, right? So this is important, as you can ask questions around when was my last class or what did I learn in the last class. So it needs time to reference to. So it reference these class schedules with the current time and give you the responses, right? And then just a sec, it's a little zoomed in. You have the final step, which is LLM synchronization service. So right now, this particular instance is connected to Canvas. It's connected to Panopto, the file storage, which I just showed you, and finally the captioning. So these are the 4 background pipelines that are running and doing the magic, which is bringing any new information, any changes happening inside Canvas, that is going to be downloaded and then parsed and put inside the vector database. Similar is with Panopto. Panopto usually comes with captions. If there are no captions, then it's going to pass those videos to captioning pipeline, which eventually generates the captions. And after generating captions, it's going to do massaging on that text data and put inside the vector database. Then you have file storage. Any files uploaded over there, they're going to be parsed in a similar fashion. There are 2 ways to trigger the pipelines. One, that is, it's going to be automatically synchronized every day at 12 a.m. CST. This is a parameter which can be changed based on the professor's requirement, or you can go and manually trigger every time you have made any kind of change by clicking on this button, synchronize now. All right, so that's about the professor's view for configuring the course, and this is the TA, the actual chatbot application, which every student in that particular course can see and use, right? So let's say I'm a lazy student, or maybe I wasn't feeling well and I missed my last class. I want to ask questions around what did I miss there, right? So I can go and say like, I wasn't feeling well. Can you tell me what did we learn in the last class? So they're like, it is not restricted, like there is no substitution for attending the person. I can provide you some information on the topics covered in the last class. So let's assume that was week 3. So now it is giving you all the topics which were discussed in the week 3, which was focused on citations and paraphrase. And these are the citations and these are the paraphrases. This is, I believe, one of the case studies or a review. So as you can see over here, everything is like linked. It's not giving any information out of its own knowledge, like, which means like the model is not hallucinating. It is very well context aware. And whenever an answer is generated, you have a link. You can click on that link and it's going to take you to that particular PPT file or any page inside the learning management system from where it actually got that information, right? So this is more about like the content of the course, but you can always ask questions regarding class logistics. You can ask questions regarding any kind of announcements or administrative stuff going on in your class. So let's say if I ask, what was the latest announcement made in the class? So it is getting the information, telling me about the latest announcement that was made in the class, which was about the final exam that's going to be on December 17th, modules covered, format of that exam, and then you also have a link which is going to take you to the announcement that was actually published inside your learning management system, right? And then I can even go and verify like it actually doesn't make anything on its own. If I ask a question, give me latest discussion going on in the classroom. So it says like there are currently no discussions going on in this particular course. And if you have any questions or need any further information, you can reach out to the professor and the TA, and we can cross verify this as well. So if I go to this particular course, and then inside, then over here, if I go to discussions, I can see like actually there are no discussions, which means the model is doing good, right? And then I can go and ask like couple more questions. Like we have some prompt starters. I can say like which resources would be most helpful for improving paragraph structure.
Yeah, can you ask how to help me for the final exam? Help me study.
Final exam? Okay, let me do it in a new chat. Can you help me with the final exam? All right. So these are the topics, and now it's asking you like which topic you want to focus or prepare. Let's say thesis and transition sentences. Now you can see like it actually asks you all the topics which were taught in the course, and then it is actually asking you quizzes. It is generating quizzes using those files or PDFs or class recordings where this topic was discussed, and then it's more like preparing you for that particular exam. So I don't know what is the answer, but I can select A. So it gave me an explanation that correct answer was B, and like there is some justification why B is the correct answer, and then it is giving me another question as well. So this is how you can use this to interactively practice, not just ask questions, but actually practice the exams as well. So another thing which I wanted to show you, like it also has awareness of who is talking to it, who is in who which student, how many students, and all those students which are enrolled, either they belong to any groups or no. So I can see and ask question like how many enrollments are there. So it says like total 5 enrollments are there. Are there any project groups? So it says like there are no project groups, right? And I can mention this here as well, like it actually understands like who is talking to it. By asking this question, I can show you like, do you know who I am? So it knows like I'm Selma, right? And that's about it. If you guys have any questions, we can ask them.
Yeah, if anyone puts questions in the chat, we'll review them at the end. Let me go back. Maybe show my screen. Okay, so here what I wanted to show next, I think we've got, whenever we talk to attendees at events and shows and stuff like that, we talk, there's always curiosity about what everyone else is doing, what other solutions are out there and so forth. And what I wanted to share a little bit is a peek into our roadmap and the other things that we have coming on. So for example, we've deployed this AI teaching assistant to within a couple of universities, okay, like what we just demoed. But in addition to that, we're seeing other applications and other use cases to share, just to see what other guys are doing. So here we have, one thing that's common is a student writing assistant. And the idea here is because to elevate the grade. So if a student can submit a draft of an assignment and get feedback on it, that at the end they'll be able to have a higher chance of mastering the material and giving more information. And they also want the writing assistant to be in the context of the way the course is taught and the way that the course is marked in the rubric. Another aspect that we've seen is, so we saw part of a demo as a quiz or flashcards. And I think the concept here is in line within the chat, you have a quiz, flashcards, things like a lot of students are just trained on interfaces that are more like TikTok, where you're swiping this quick, fast feedback to go through that and using that as a teaching aid. Okay. One scenario that's we've seen very not widely adopted, but has very, very good reviews is a role-playing game. So you can say based on a particular case, so if I say for a business course, okay, an AI is taught to be, I don't know, the competitor CEO, and you have to practice a negotiation class. Okay, another one that's also very common would be an AI that presents to be a patient in the context of a medical school, medical classes, or for nursing, for example, where you can interview the simulated patient. And a lot of that helps with some of the dialogue and back and forth and their triage and understanding. It's also a lot more interactive in terms of how to applicate, how they absorb the material. It's a little bit less than just rote, lecture material to memorize. The other one here, the last one here we have here that's quite common is a student coach. So what we've shown you is a teaching assistant for a single course, and you can replicate for multiple courses. We've seen a student coach that basically understands the student's workload, their student's material. So a student coach would say, what's my last assignment? What's my next assignment across all my courses? How much should I plan to study for my for this weekend across all my courses? Or how should I organize how should I create a study schedule given my exam schedule? I think things of that nature, helping students sort of coach them through their learning journey, managing their workload. There are other use cases in our roadmap that are outside the student interface. This is one grouping. For faculty, a lot of what we're looking for is things around creating course content, either feedback or enriching or modifying the course content. One thing we're seeing with AI is a lot of professors are looking at modifying the course material to use group work or presentation work so that they're not handing in an AI generated paper and they're forcing them to present at the end of the course. Here we've seen some LLMs that are trained on medical data sets, and so there's adoption within med school. And in these cases, they're interesting because they're not using a general purpose LLM, they're using some of the more medical stacks and medical LLMs. Two other aspects that we've seen for faculty, one of them is just a campus-wide AI LLM that they're saying is we want a university-approved solution where all the proprietary data, whatever you have access to an LLM, it's going to be cost-effective and no data leaves the university network. And meeting those as a general purpose solution. Last one, I think it's common, it's a variation of the feedback application is a grading assistant to have preliminary grades or feedback for professors to work through that. Okay, and then lastly, here we have the use cases sort of outside of pure teaching. So here we've got, we've had interest from a number of parties around HR. There's two aspects of that. One of them is, I think with a lot of faculty, it might be shy to ask about HR policies for certain situations. So it's easier to ask a chat interface sort of anonymously about HR policies. The other part about HR is having HR automation. So just the workload to request holidays or sick days or policies and so forth. They have integration. We've built chatbots that have integration with Workday, for example, and other SIS systems like Ellucian that will provide, hey, based on my policy, do I have allowances for this? How much is available? Can you submit a request for me for an HR claim, for example? We have seen applications for transcriptions. So in particular, transfer students from other universities to automatically scan transcripts and then also find research for the equivalent course for I took a business writing in this other university to transfer that. What's the equivalent credit in our university to have that? We found chatbots or applications for bursaries and scholarships. So we've got a number of universities say that, hey, look, they have a number of scholarships and bursaries available, but applicants don't know about them. So they're saying that these scholarships and bursaries are underutilized, and as a result, indirectly, we get fewer applicants into the school for that particular year. So they're saying is, okay, as if I'm applying and to register for the University of Chicago, if I know what scholarships are available, and I can ask them, are there any scholarships related to music or whatever that might be lesser known, that you might have more information available through a chatbot that knows their underlying knowledge base and can help someone fill out the application process, rather than, oh, they may not find the music-related scholarship on the course website because it's sitting alongside so much other content. A career advisor is another application that's seeing it's sort of an overwhelming department within a university. So for a career advisor, we talked to one school where they've got 12 careers advisors for 30,000 students. And they just can't keep up, they can't provide good advice. And here, the model that they were pursuing was a career advisor AI that gives feedback to students based on career guides, gives them links to online resources and so forth, so that when they talk to a career advisor, they already, like a person, they already are warmed up and they've done some of that preparatory information. And that's it for case studies. There are use cases for AI applications all over the place. I don't think there's a limit of how many ideas come up that come across, but these are some of the significant ones that we've seen at events across many universities that we're finding interesting in putting on our roadmap. From a delivery process for Royal Cyber, there's two modes of operation that we can provide. One of them is we do build tailor-made solutions. So in this case is one thing we've done, for example, for the University of Chicago, there's an IT department that's looking at implementing AI infrastructure. And Royal Cyber, we've got data science. We have a data scientist practice, and from that practice, we sort of co-developed a team to augment their IT staff. So as a result, what we did is the university CIO and their architects had a design, but they say, hey, look, we want to get something up quickly, and we don't have a data scientist on staff. Help us put something in place. So with this, then we built a team, augmented their team, and built a solution, helped design it, helped do performance testing and scaling out of that solution. Here you can find out more about that in our AI Centers of Excellence on our website. The link's there below. Okay, and then here lastly, we do have, for everyone who's sort of participated today, we do have access to ClassBuddy. And for all the participants who are attending the webinar, we do have a free test drive available. So if you click on this link, and it'll be shared in the webinar notes, that everyone who's participated in the webinar today will have access to a free test drive of our Canvas environment of that business teaching course, and get their own hands-on experience and able to play with both the student experience as well as the professor experience and see how it all works. Okay, and with that, I think that's all. I'll pass it back to Sakina.
Thank you, Asad. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation and a very insightful session. Now we are opening our Q&A session, so please feel free to put your questions on the chat, or even if you want to unmute yourself, please unmute your mics and you would be able to speak your questions. We are getting some questions on the chat. I will read one of the few questions, starting with, do you have an integration with D2L? Asad or Sarmat, whoever wants to take it.
Yes, so yeah, I can answer that. So D2L, so out of the box, so the ClassBuddy application is a LTI application. So we're going through standard applications. It can be embedded in Blackboard or D2L, some of the major LMS systems out there. As of this moment, D2L isn't supported like in our demo environment, but it is something that's on the roadmap, and we're quickly building with some of the universities that are currently signed up for the service.
Great. We have another question. Does it have integration with Blackboard?
Yeah, so this is, I guess, a similar question. So Blackboard is also, we're working with the university in Europe, and we're building out the integration for Blackboard as well.
Great. Right. And does it also have like a multimodal support? Mm-hmm. Does ClassBuddy have that support?
Right. So yeah, this is one of the interesting questions. We do have this ability to change. So by default, early on, we're looking at OpenAI from a cost perspective as well as an accuracy and performance perspective. We are seeing different behavior with Claude, and also Gemini from a cost perspective also has different performance levels. So we do have the ability to change them and change them by course. So we can give that level of control to the IT or instructors.
I said we are getting a lot of questions on the chat. So there is one more question. Does it store my data somewhere else, like any other Canvas tool?
Yeah, so all of the data that's stored within the system, maybe actually, maybe Sarma, that you can answer this question.
Sure. So all the data that's connected to ClassBuddy is only kept in the forms of embeddings inside the vector database. Otherwise, we do not move your data and stage it or save it anywhere. The file storage system that basically holds your data inside blob storage account. Otherwise, whatever things that are integrated through learning management systems, it stays over there. They are just processed in the forms of embeddings and stored into the vector database.
Thank you so much. I know we are getting an overwhelming response on the question, so we will be sending out a separate note to answer all of these questions. And as a quick reminder, we will also be sending out the recording as well as any presentation slides shortly after our webinar session. And thank you once again to both the speakers, Asad and Sarmat, for a very insightful session. And I'm hoping that everybody will be leaving with some valuable takeaways. And please feel free to ask any questions and reach out to us. You can always write it to marketing@Royal Cyber. And feel free to sign up for our free trial on ClassBuddy and experiment and see the drive yourself. Thank you once again and look forward to seeing you in our future webinars.